Can I borrow that book? Thank you so much. Yeah, there we go. I don't like reaching down, and I like mics right here where I can use them. Okay. I just want to thank you to the Senate and to President Peterson in his absence, and to you, Senator Shope. Thank you so much for hosting us. I'm really excited just to be here and to come together as a community as we talk about the state of Black Arizona and the things that are facing our community. Here you'll see representatives from almost every district. Your constituents are in this space. I say that to my colleagues here at the legislature. And if they're not here, they're definitely watching and engaged, and they're paying attention to what's going on. And so I just want to make sure that I lift that up. I stand before you as a proud millennial legislator, and it is an honor to serve at this time. I am committed to bold, transformative change for marginalized communities of Arizona and for our state as a whole. For too long, our voices, Black, brown, indigenous, immigrant, working class, have been overlooked in policy decisions that directly impact our lives and our futures. The status quo has failed us, as we've seen protections fought so hard for, taken back. It's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. We just keep seeing these changes, and we make progress, and then sometimes it feels like we're pushed 10 steps back. But it's not all dreary, and I don't want you to get distracted with what's going on that's beyond our control. There are things that we can do to keep our families safe, to keep moving forward. We know how to make lemonade. We know how to take what we're given and birth something extremely beautiful. There was a time when those of African descent weren't allowed to read because it was illegal. But that didn't stop us from reading. It didn't stop us from finding ways to get what we know we needed. We know we needed literacy. We know we needed to be able to read these bills and get active. And we saw during the Reconstruction era how African Americans came out not only to vote, but to run for office and to do all the amazing things. Why am I mentioning the Reconstruction era in 2025? Glad you asked. We see, you know I'm a preacher, so you have to work with me. You see time and time again in the last, I'll say 10 years especially, that things that we, and I mean we as in my generation, have taken for granted that we thought could never happen. Protections we thought we would never lose, we have lost them. And we see things continually being offered and put up policies that will harm us. Civic engagement, and I said this last night, is a muscle. It's like a calf muscle that must be exercised. It is not something that you can wait and sit on the sidelines about. If you don't work the legislative process, it will work you. And so we have got to inform ourselves, and just like we had to figure out ways to get that literacy, figure out ways to get the skill sets that we needed to survive and thrive, we have to make sure that we use the tools that we have to advocate for our people and to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. A well-rounded workout plan should include several key components to ensure balance, effectiveness, and sustainability. We want sustainable change. Whether the goal is strength, endurance, or general overall health and quality of life, it's essential that we include these elements. We have to have these warm-ups. Now, what is a warm-up? A warm-up looks like you coming down here and visiting with your legislators and communicating with them and building a relationship, because it's hard to bring change without relationship. And so I call that the warm-up. You come down here, you communicate. I know a lot of my friends and family in the audience right now are definitely constituents of Speaker Montenegro. And so if you live out in that area that he shared with you, he represents you down here. Strength training. After you build a relationship and you meet your legislators, you keep coming. And you show up and you communicate and you work with them. We may not agree on everything, but there's a lot of things we can agree on. You heard Senator Shope say that we want the American dream, or was that Speaker Montenegro? My apologies. We want the American dream and that quality of life for everybody, but if you aren't using your voice, if you aren't making sure that your voice is being heard, it may be overlooked. Sometimes when voices are overlooked, it's not to be spiteful or things like that, but we need to make sure that we're communicating and our voices are heard. Cardiovascular training. Now that's a big part of any workout plan. The heartbeat is our community. The heartbeat of you exercising your civic engagement and exercising your rights in this democracy that we have, that's a republic, right? The heartbeat is us. It's you working with the commission. It's you finding your home in one of these pillars and taking your passion, your desires, your interests, and putting it to work. It's one thing to show up and say, I showed up, and I'm not talking about anybody up in here, but you got to show up and do something, and not just do anything. The heartbeat has to work together. If all the chambers are doing their own thing and are working together, somebody's going to be out of breath. And that's the last thing we want. We want a healthy, sustainable change. Flexibility and mobility training. I said we're not a monolith. We're not going to always agree on everything. We have to be flexible with ourselves, with the legislature, and we have to find that common ground. I am so excited about the things that I've seen this session. We have been able to work together, myself and my colleagues, and I've seen collaboration and nonpartisan efforts that warrant celebration, because I see us coming together. Now, there are things we definitely don't agree on, but I have seen us come together, and it feels good to know that we can find those areas and make sure that we're fighting for Arizona, because Arizona is a grown woman. She needs grown woman government. She's not an infant anymore. Today is what? State Day. It's Arizona's birthday today. I know it's Valentine's Day and you may have plans tonight, but today is Arizona's birthday. She needs grown woman government. She needs a grown woman budget. Her industries, her markets are not, real talk, the industries are growing here. We are bursting at the seams with innovation, with jobs, with opportunity, and we have to have the funding and the support to make sure that we're growing responsibly. The last thing we need as a state is to grow and not be able to meet these demands. Over 200 people, and this was a stat from 2015, so I'm sure it's crazier now. 200 people were moving to Maricopa County every day. I remember being at the assessor's office and hearing the county supervisor share that statistic, and I thought to myself, that's why the 10 is so bad, right? Because we're congested. We've got to spread this stuff out and make sure that as people come here, as businesses come here, as new industries are birthed, we got TSMC coming in, we're going to be the center for so much. And with that comes responsibility. And like I said, Arizona is grown, and we can't do things the way we used to. We have a lot of policies that are outdated, that need to be updated. We need to grow with Arizona. And so I want to make sure I'll lift that up. Core and stability workouts. Again, that's coming down here, building relationships, and taking that knowledge out into the community. This is not our entire community, right? We're 4% of the population, but or 5 or 6, depending on whose statistics you're using. But we have people who want to know but couldn't be here because they're working, they've got children, they've got other responsibilities outside of the responsibilities during the working hours, and they couldn't be here. But those of us who are here should be sharing what we're learning in these workshops today, information that you hear, debunking foolishness, all that's a responsibility. And it's imperative that to protect our core as a community, that we make sure that we check those things ourselves. We should make sure we're not spreading misinformation. If we don't know, we should find out before we share it. That's my personal rule. If I'm not sure, I'm going to find out before I share it. And then rest and recovery. That's the biggest part of any plan. The last thing we want is for you to be burnt out. Hydration. The last thing we want you to do is be thirsty. Take care of yourself. We know what it's like as a community to keep running and keep running. And while we have to do that, what time has shown us is that we can get burnt out. A balanced plan, workout plan, prevents burnout and ensures long-term success. And that's what we want, long-term success. The status quo has failed us, but we continue to move forward and persevere. Every elected official, from the top to the bottom, we all work for Arizona. Regardless of the politics of things, we are all one community, one state, that whether you realize it or not, you grocery shop with folks who may think differently than you, you get your car washed with them, our children go to school together, we worship together, right? We scream at the Cardinals together. Like, we are the Arizona family. And when you're building these relationships, be mindful not to just talk to people who think like you. I personally have grown so much from learning from everybody, because it's going to take a diverse effort to move this country forward. Change doesn't come from waiting. It comes from standing boldly in our truth, demanding better, and making it happen. And making it happen is us working out that plan. Change is seeing a need and answering it. And I got a couple examples for y'all, and then I'll wrap it up. Like Keisha and her team at Base Arizona. I remember the first time I saw one of those little Base Arizona flyers. I'm like, what is this? What is the Afro Scouts? I have never heard of that before. But I remember taking my kids and to one of her read-alongs, and it was so amazing, at Grassroots bookstore. It looks like developing a supportive hive like Archwood Exchange that started as an idea, and then it was like a community gathering outside, and now it's a physical oasis. We just had our legislative briefing there last night, and I was amazed at what they're building. It looks like seeing a need for academic spaces and creating things like the Center for the Study of Race and Democracy, which was a dream of Dr. Whitaker's, or Project Humanity, a dream and a project of Dr. Neil Lester. We are the change, but we have to work this legislative process and use all avenues of communication to make sure that when these policies are being made, that our people are being considered and that we are not being left behind. We don't want to be the center of attention. There are many communities that need help, that need support, but ours has historically been overlooked. The I-10 knocked so many historic Black homes and neighborhoods. As they've continued to build around us, we need to make sure that if there are things happening, that our people are taken care of. That comes by you exercising your right and lifting up your voice. I said it at the press conference, we can be one voice or we can be many. People power is where it's at. Join me, join the commission, join your legislature, and let's give Arizona the grown woman stewardship that she deserves. Thank you.